We're very excited to see all of you on our webinar today. And as we get started, we just want to invite you to say hello in the chat box. And just want to say, Ki onde da, de onde batsan. We're so glad that all of you are here. And I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. And we're excited to share with you a celebration of promising practices in collaboration across tribal early childhood programs. So let's get started. And so this webinar is brought to you by lots of different partners across ACF. And so just wanted to highlight a few of our partners here. And just, this webinar wouldn't be possible without all of our wonderful partners. We'll go to the next slide. And we just appreciate all of the collaboration and the partnership to make this webinar and other webinars like this possible. So to get us started today, we're going to go ahead and start first with an opening prayer. So for our opening prayer, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mike Richardson.
Mike Richardson, I just wanted to say, give a welcome to everybody this morning, and let us all pray in our own way this morning as we think about what this month means to us and every day that we live in this life. Neha ke pleki pilohuk watene ki pinagas mi hane la he lewi na han pleki la kwa ki o yitna he ya he pito pilohuk ko ho huk non se yoki vila hek kola wai how huwa na hans pleki non sa ya wai buk onle he to ki la kete migasne one specta non sei ita i no I wa o ya o hoi wa I pito wa kila hu pe maxti kitone ki pilo hook one skete ya ki wa I yinki o ho yan ito steko I gasi pilo hook yinki ya pilo hook yinki ya pilo hook. Thank you so much and welcome to everybody.
Awesome. Aho, Mike. Thank you so much for that. And now for some opening remarks, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jennifer Amaya.
Thank you, Melody. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be with all of you today. As Melody mentioned, November is National Native American Heritage Month. This November and every month, we celebrate the cultures, the language, and the heritage of tribal communities and recognize what makes tribal communities so unique and so special. My name is Jennifer Amaya. I am the content lead on areas related to equity, inclusiveness, culture, and language. And I'm also honored to be the Federal Project Officer for the Tribal Colleges and Universities Head Start Partnership programs. I work under the Division of Training and Technical Assistance for the Office of Head Start, and I am honored to be here with all of you. I'm excited and honored that we have the opportunity to continue with this tradition, and my colleague, Melody, had asked me to share with you a little bit more about the Tribal Subcommittee. But before I do that, I want to welcome you on behalf of ACF, the Administration of Children and Families, and all my colleagues who work very hard to have this national webinar here for you today. 6 years ago, back in 2016, just to set the context, through the Office of Head Start and through the Office of Child Care under the Office of Early Childhood Development, we launched the Tribal Subcommittee to create a space across federal agencies, across colleagues, key partners, to bring us all together to celebrate, to honor, to learn from each other, and to truly understand the importance of the work of Native American communities. So I'm excited to let you know that we are still here and we are continuing to go strong. And in adding to that, I also wanted to let you know, within the past 6 years, within the work of the tribal subcommittee, we have been able to come together every year, and we have a topic of importance to tribal communities, and where we discuss areas related to professional development, areas related to school readiness, research, and how that informs our work. And we work together to really come with ideas about what works better within the practices of tribal nations. So in saying that, I wanted to thank all of you for being here today, and a special thank you to the ad hoc committee who put together today's presentation for all of you. And I would like to transition to my colleague, Mike Richardson. And before I transition to you, Mike, I want to thank everyone who's here today for your ongoing collaboration, your partnership, and your ongoing commitment to tribal communities and the work that we do on a daily basis to make sure that we are providing the support that you need through training and technical assistance, and that we're embedding the practices that are already in place for tribal nations. So thank you, Mike, and I'm transitioning to you.
Again, I say, Mikia Michim Keho Masab Nagjak Lapiwa, Mike Richardson Makila Kiwa, to Kate Wo, hoping everyone is doing well today. I'm Mike Richardson, the National American and Alaska Native Head Start Collaboration Director. And, you know, I'm honored to be here today. I was very honored to say the prayer today. That is a huge thing to be asked to do that. And so I'm honored and so thankful. I'm also very thankful to the people that put this together. I know how much hard work everybody put in with such busy schedules. And Melody, thank you so much for, I know you can barely talk today, but we're so appreciative of the work that you do and everything and putting this together. So thank you and your team. And Jennifer, all the work you do as well. We're so thankful for everybody that's here. I just wanted to do a brief overview of some of the things that we're working on within Region 11, AIN, Head Start and Early Head Start. I've been in this position now for 10 years, and I'm so appreciative of the flexibility we've been given by the federal side to be able to work within our tribal communities. And we've seen it pay off over the years. Next slide, please. And I do want to give a shout out to Roxana, who works with me. We're a team of 2. As you see, we cover a huge area. This is a map that was done in 2018. We were waiting for the updated one to come out. But it's pretty much just the same area. As you see, we cover most of the states. We have 26 states we work in, including Alaska, across the country. And we normally serve 24 to 25,000 children, both in Head Start and Early Head Start, from 0 to 3 and then 3 to 5 years old. So we're so thankful for the opportunity to work in those communities. And the Collaboration Office is, we have a kind of a unique role. We're not the trainers, the TTNA staff do that, but our role is more to be aware of what's happening in the communities on different levels. So we will look at what's happening at the tribal level, we'll look at what's impacting them from the local level, what's impacting them from the state level and the federal level as well as things like when there's fires in the areas, if there's hurricanes, if there's different natural disasters or other things that may impact them. We look at that because that impacts the community as a whole. Next slide, please. So we try to keep up with everything that's going on in our communities. That way, it helps us to have, to give more information back to our federal office and to also to our national centers to let everybody know, okay, not only do we have these things happening, but we also have these other things that may impact that particular community. We've had communities that were uprooted because of fires in the area. They had to move pretty much everybody out. And sometimes those can be long-lasting type things that impacts those communities. So when we look at it, we're looking at it across the board, not just our children, but their families, their communities as a whole, and how they impact it. So one of the big things is supporting our children and families in our American and Alaska Native communities. And this can mean different things, whether it's one of our Southwest communities or whether it's some of our Alaskan remote villages, or have a super on the bottom of the Grand Canyon, or our Northeast compared to our Northwest type tribal communities. Mental health disabilities is a large area of work that we do. I'm the lead for mental health disabilities advocacy work. So when there's an issue with the local school and providing services. And then I'm brought in to have those discussions around how do we get those services for our children and how do we move forward with that. And these conversations sometimes end up all the way up to the state level. And we've had some federal level conversations around these as well. And due to COVID and so forth, we have a lot less resources than what we had prior to it. So we're working to try to offset some of those things and find ways to work around things and get the services that we need. My role is to find services for our tribal children. So when I go into a community, I'm looking to see how we can best do that and how we can get those services there. And it's not been an easy road, but it is a battle we will continue to have. Enrollment has been a big issue since the pandemic. So we're working to see how that's impacted by not only the pandemic itself, but also we have a lot of state pre-Ks, a lot of other type entities. So their competition for children is something we keep an eye on. So we're trying to make sure that our staff and our programs have the right resources to help to keep their enrollments up. Professional development staff, and as Jennifer said, she's working with the Tribal College University with the grants. In my role with the Tribal College, I work with all 37 of our tribal colleges and universities. And what we're trying to do is ensure that there's a good relationship between our Head Start programs, and our biggest resource when it comes to education is our tribal colleges and universities. Unfortunately, we don't have one at every site. So our local college and university plays a role as well. And those are the ones we have more of them than we do our tribal college universities. So just making sure that when our staff needs certifications, need degrees, that's available to them. If they can't find it, then we're going to try to find ways to help support that so that they can get that. Another big thing is we can't do anything without the parents, can't do anything without the family. So family engagement is a huge part. And since the pandemic, that's another area that's kind of dropped off more than what it was before. So we're doing our best to try to get families more engaged because the more they're engaged, the better it is for the children. And then staff wellness. We can't do what we do without our staff. So that's become a big push within the Office of Head Start here in the last few years, is that we need to protect, take care of, and nurture our staff. The more we do that, the less turnover we have. So we're looking to do that ways, and I'm trying to provide resources to where we want to use traditional ways of supporting our staff, that those things are available to them within their own communities. And then my passion, as everybody knows, is language revitalization. We lost so many first speakers. We lost so many elders during the pandemic, more so than what we were losing prior to it. And we've got programs that now that are devastated by not having enough speakers. And so we're looking at ways to how do we work around this? How do we move forward? How do we look at programs that completely lost their language and the techniques and so forth they're using, provide those resources to our programs that are there. But it's stretched past that. I just left the National Indian Education Association Conference, which is our largest Native American education conference. And one of the big things there, which I'm so happy to hear finally coming from our K through 12 and even our university level, is indigenizing the learning environment itself. Indigenizing the classrooms. A lot use that term, indigenized classroom. To me, it's the whole learning environment. So we've looked at language, we looked at the culture, and what does that mean? Is that when we walk into our tribal classrooms, it reflects that community. That there's a reason why we have specific AIN support groups to support this particular demographic. So in indigenizing the learning environment basically means that we're not only looking at the language and the culture within there, but also traditional games. We're working with Special Olympics, Young Athletes program. We're working with other Montana with the indigenous games out of Montana. We're looking at different ones that are already doing this in their communities. Alaska, a lot of the programs, they're doing this, and bringing those games, our traditional games, back to our Head Start programs and to our early childhood programs. So our children can grow up knowing what they are and not always having westernized games as part of them. And then the other one's traditional foods. So all those things come together to indigenize that learning environment overall. So you got language, culture, you've got the traditional foods, and you have traditional games. So it makes an inclusive, holistic approach to educating our children in a way to where it fits within the community that they're coming from, and it reflects that community. And it gives them that pride on who they are. And Head Start has become like a kind of a community thing. Our tribal elders, tribal leaders at every tribal consultation talk about that. And we're so thankful for that and the role that we can play in this. And thank you guys so much for having me and having a small opportunity to take and talk about this work that we do, because I think it's so important. Language, language, language. The more we have, the better we are. Pilohuk.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that awesome overview, Mike. And yes, you and Roxana do some amazing things for Indian Country, and just really awesome to hear about the ways that you support collaboration. So with that, let's go to the next slide. And does anyone have any questions for Mike? All right, looking in the chat, I see we have several of us saying hello in the chat, so thank you for that. I don't see any questions in the chat at this time, but if you think of a question for Mike, feel free to just put it in the chat and we can circle back. Awesome, well, we appreciate that overview. Thank you, Mike, for sharing with us. All right, let's go to the next slide. Awesome. So now we're going to hear about an overview of the Tribal Early Learning Initiative. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Eva Carter, and we'll go to the next slide.
Hi, Melody. I'm not sure where Eva is because I'm communicating with her by email, so I thought she was on, but I'll get started and hopefully she will be able to join us. Hi, everyone. My name is Moushmi Beltangadi. I work at the Administration for Children and Families in the Office of Early Childhood Development, where I lead the work related to tribal early childhood and oversee the Tribal Early Learning Initiative, or TELI, which I'm going to speak about today. Next slide. So the Tribal Early Learning Initiative came out of a recognition, which I'm sure all of you are very familiar with, that many of the tribal early childhood development programs, including Head Start, Child Care, Home Visiting, the Bureau of Indian Education FACE program, et cetera, often operate in silos with different funding sources and standards and policies, regulations, different ways of being organized within the tribe. And this often leads to conflicting policies, sometimes inconsistent quality, uneven investment, and other challenges. And so in a more well-aligned system, programs are better integrated. They work together to plan and make decisions, plan to coordinate, and really think about how they can align the activities that they're doing so that they're really supporting all the children and families in the community. And so in response to kind of the challenges that we see with these silos and the lack of collaboration and coordination, ACF launched the Tribal Early Learning Initiative back in 2012. Next slide. So in 2012, we launched the Tribal Early Learning Initiative as a partnership between ACF and several American Indian tribes. We worked with 8 tribes total over the 5 years of the TELI that had Head Start, childcare, and home visiting programs. And so tribes were given small incentive grants and a great deal of technical assistance support from both technical assistance providers and federal staff, as well as ACF leadership, to develop and implement their plans. And the goals are really to support tribes to coordinate their programs, those programs that I mentioned, Head Start, childcare, and home visiting, but also other partners within the community. really the ultimate goal is to create and support more seamless, high quality early childhood systems and raise the quality of services for children and families from prenatal to kindergarten entry. And this is achieved by really identifying and breaking down barriers to collaboration and system improvement. Next slide. So with the previous cohorts of TELI, we did 2 cohorts between 2012 and 2017. We really saw an enormous amount of success with these efforts. We saw at the tribal level really wonderful relationships being built between those programs that were participating, support for each other, more respect across partners, really learning about each other's work and thinking about how they could work together more effectively. It really formed a solid foundation for expanding culturally grounded early childhood services and systems in the community, improved coordination of services to families with young children, and helped, they really identified a lot of barriers to collaboration and system improvement, both real and perceived barriers, and really started working toward a more unified vision for children and families. And so some of the activities that TELI tribes engaged in were, for example, creating a single tribal early learning program enrollment form to make it easier for families to enroll, selecting common assessment tools across programs so that it was easier to compare data across programs and also was less burdensome on families to keep completing the same assessments over and over. Holding joint professional development trainings for all of the staff across programs, investing in data systems to allow for sharing of data and better coordination, and then also allocating expenditures across grants through cost allocation to allow for some shared services. Next slide. So I just wanted to share a little bit of information that unfortunately we weren't able to have her join today, but Barb Faber was one of the amazing TELI participants with the White Earth Nation in the first cohort of TELI. And really, they were able to achieve so much with their TELI initiative. And she has spoken about this on various webinars over the years. But I just wanted to share some of her reflections since she wasn't able to join us today. She was the CCF administrator at the White Earth Band of Ojibwe, and really sort of was one of the key partners in their TELI effort and now works at Indigenous Visioning. Next slide. So the White Earth TELI partners, which included their Head Start, childcare, and home visiting programs, really met on a regular basis, sometimes monthly, sometimes bi-weekly, depending on their workload activities. They worked together to coordinate community events, such as an early learning screening event that they did in their community. They really learned about each other's programs and services and reviewed the ways that they were duplicative and where there were gaps and where there were opportunities. They thought about the different ways that they were collecting information from families, how they enrolled families, what kind of financial data they were collecting, what types of assessments they were doing, such as the ASQ, how families had to apply for services, and really thought about where are the places that we could make some simplification and reduce burden for families. They worked together to identify ways to share data across programs so that they could support families in a more coordinated way. And they also looked specifically at all their different home visiting work, which was happening in their tribal home visiting program, as well as in their Head Start and childcare programs. And so they looked at, were there clients that more than one program were sharing? And was there a way to work together to, coordinate and not overwhelm the family? Next slide. One of the really exciting things that came out of the White Earth TELI effort was a tribal-wide initiative that really stemmed from the TELI called We Care, or White Earth Coordination, Assessment, Resources, and Education. And this, as I said, started with TELI, but really led to this tribal effort to increase referrals across all tribal programs, improve the accessibility of resources to families, increase communication and coordination between programs, and really reduce duplication of services. And you can see here a list of all the different services that were part of this We Care model. And actually in 2018, the White Earth Business Committee, their council, passed a resolution that directed all tribal programs to implement the We Care and really ensure that they were working together across programs to meet the needs of families. This allowed them to have more coordinated enrollment, to share data across clients so that they were not having to ask for the same information multiple times, to ensure that they understood what services a family was receiving, and also to identify ways that they could refer families to other services. So it was a really exciting, I think, transformational effort that came out of the TELI, actually. It really was stemming from that effort, and I think just really demonstrates how even a little bit of collaboration between a few programs just to start can really have an impact on the whole community and on all the families in the community. So we're just really so grateful to have been even a little small part in the transformational work that happened at White Earth and they were able to accomplish. Next slide. So I wanted to share that, as I mentioned, the last TELI effort happened between 2012 and 2017. And since then, we have continued to hear from tribal communities that they really would like more opportunities to do this type of collaboration and to have support from ACF to do so. And so we launched a new TELI effort this year, which really is about supporting, again, childcare, Head Start home visiting, and other programs to come together to support a stronger early childhood system. And this time we were able to leverage the Tribal Child Care and Development Fund, which is a program that has enormous reach into tribal communities. And so this was really an opportunity to expand the TELI and broaden the reach and make it more sustainable by helping tribes think about how to use their increased tribal CCDF funding, which has increased dramatically over the last 5 years, to meet longtime goals that they have related to early childhood program coordination and support tribes to come together across all of their partners to move toward tribally driven, culturally grounded systems of whole family, holistic, trauma-informed approaches that work across different programs with early childhood as the focal and starting point. And really, this is coming out of what we've seen and heard from tribal communities, the last round of TELI, and just the continued efforts that we've been hearing about in tribal communities to collaborate across programs. Next slide. The kinds of activities that we have now provided information to tribal CCDF grantees about what they could accomplish with tribal CCDF funds include the ones that you see on the slide, and some of them align with the things that I talked about the last cohort of TELI doing. We were able to provide an information memorandum to the whole tribal CCDF community, basically laying out how they could use their funds for these purposes. And then they had an opportunity to apply through submitting an appendix to their tribal CCDF plan, a TELI appendix, to basically say, we want to use our funds in this way. And these are the different things that we would like to use the funds for to support TELI and early childhood system building activities. And all of those applications were due in early July. So next slide. The new TELI effort actually included kind of two opportunities. One was a TELI collaborative, which is a small group peer learning community where we're working with 8 tribes that want to use their tribal CCDF funds to support a TELI and really want to partner with ACF as part of a learning community on early childhood system building. And so that's the more intensive option. The other option was the TELI network, which any tribe could be part of, just sort of a broader community that is using their funds, their tribal CCDF funds, to support TELI, but they really aren't interested in the intensive TA supports and partnership with ACF. That's part of the TELI collaborative. And so basically any tribe that submitted that TELI appendix to their tribal CCDF plan, where they explained how they wanted to use the funds for those purposes, is considered part of the TELI network. Next slide. So I mentioned that applications, the TELI appendices, as well as applications for the TELI collaborative, they were due July 1st. And just to give you a sense of who all is participating in this, we have 49 tribes that submitted their TELI appendix to their plan and are planning to use their tribal CCDF funds to support early childhood system building activities. So we were really pleased and kind of overwhelmed by the response, just to see the huge amount of tribes that recognize that this type of collaboration and this type of system building is really critical to their childcare program, to their early childhood system, and felt like they were in a position to really devote some of their tribal CCDF resources to making this happen. So we were really pleased with that. And we also were really pleased to have 8 tribes apply to participate in the TELI collaborative, the more intensive peer learning opportunity. We had 15 states represented across the 49 TELI network tribes. And actually it says 11, but it was 6 regions in the US that were part of the TELI network. Next slide. And this is just a map showing you which tribes are going to be participating in the TELI collaborative. And you can see here, it's a really diverse group of tribes from many different parts of the country, different sizes of communities and tribes. And I think we're just super excited about the opportunity to get to work with all of these folks over the next few years. And just really amazed by the creativity that we've seen in their applications and just their commitment to really working across their programs and partners to make their goals and vision happen. Next slide. So this is a little bit hard to read, but just wanted to share about what TELI tribes submitted as part of their TELI appendix about who are the programs that they plan to partner with. And so you can see here, it doesn't only include the early learning programs, it also includes health services, behavioral health, education, the tribal colleges and universities, and then other human services programs such as housing, employment services, TANF, child welfare, et cetera. So really, they identified so many opportunities and places to collaborate. And we saw just some really great ideas about how they would want to use their funds to really support this kind of collaboration. Next slide. And these are just some of the activities that the tribes submitted in their applications about what they might want to do with the TELI. There was a lot of discussion about streamlining referral and intake processes, having more one-stop approach to families receiving early childhood services. They talked about looking at eligibility across programs and where there were differences. They talked about identifying duplication of services and gaps in services, developing sharing agreements across programming, programs, thinking about how they could support and engage families in a more effective and coordinated way. And many of them are planning to hire a TELI coordinator, which we saw with the first cohort of TELI was really helpful in having someone whose job is not to implement a program, but who's really there to support the coordination effort and the overall TELI and has time to devote to that type of coordination activities. Next slide. So just wanted to leave you with some quotes from some of the past TELI participants at the Pueblo of San Felipe and the Intertribal Council of Michigan. the first quote really talks about how the communication and collaboration across programs has been improved, and the programs are really working towards one end, that they know what each other is doing, and they know that the services are meeting the needs of the community, and they're not working in silos. The second quote is really talking about how in the past they were siloed and they were really focused on implementing their own programs, but now they're working together and they've really raised the profile of early childhood in their communities. And they've seen that this is reflected in high-level decision makers really thinking about early childhood and how important it is to the well-being of the tribal communities. So we're really, really pleased to see these kind of stories coming out of the TELI, and we're just super excited about what's going to come next and how this next round of TELI will really be able to transform and build upon the amazing work that's already happening in tribal communities. And next slide. Thank you so much. I will turn it back to Melody.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Moushumi. That was some wonderful information, and I'm very excited to hear more about the different collaboration efforts that the TELI Network and TELI Collaborative grantees will take. So super exciting. Just want to double check with the chat. Does anyone have any questions for Moushumi about the TELI? And I don't see any questions in the chat right now. But again, if you have a question, if you think of something, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure that Moushumi gets it. All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Moushumi. So now I'm going to go ahead and transition over to our next presenter. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jennifer Amaya.
Thank you, Melody. And, just a moment of reflection. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Moushumi, for the work that you have highlighted in your presentations. And it just keeps reminding me of the importance of these collaborations, right? And really elevating the work that we have been able to do in the past years together. And, for me, it's an honor, as well as Melody. She's my co-lead on the tribal subcommittee, knowing that you are all members of the tribal subcommittee, so that we keep informed and we know what's happening to support tribal nation, both at the federal and at the regional lens. So it is exciting to hear all the great work that is happening. So for me, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the tribal colleges and universities. And I also have here with me my colleague, Karen Littlewin from Chandeska-Sikana Community College, who will be sharing with you the experience of growing our own efforts from the workforce lens within tribal nations. So saying that, my presentation is mainly to provide you with an update about the tribal colleges and universities Head Start partnerships and how utilizing a growing of our own approach has really helped us to build early childhood education career pathways in Native American communities. So next slide, please. So just to give you a little background within, earlier, Mike had mentioned about the work that we do to provide services to American Indian and Alaska Native Head Start and early Head Start programs through the Office of Head Start. Just for me is to provide you a brief overview, as Mike already provided you with the larger view about who they are within the work that we do in Head Start. We serve in a daily basis, in a year basis, over 23,000 children and families in Native American communities. For the most recent data, we know that we funded over 207 programs that are operated by American Indian tribal government and consortial grantees. We also know that, our Native American programs employ over 5,649 staff that are serving our children in Native communities. We know that the majority of the programs are staff from Native American backgrounds, and we also know that culturally and linguistically responsive practices are implemented through our systems and services. What we also know is that there is a huge movement across the nation to really support for tribal language revitalization efforts. And we know that English currently is the larger language spoken by Native communities. So next slide, please. So here is another slide, what we know and the importance of why the tribal colleges and universities, when we began to look at some of the challenges that Native American communities face in the workforce, and now more than ever, we learned and we knew that many of them are having a difficulty of having a workforce that have the credentialing on early childhood, and that is also integrating the culture and the language aspect of it. We knew that our Native American communities are faced with many challenges, such as the geographical locations, the workforce issues, childcare, and have access to institutions of higher education. We also learned, and this was data pre-COVID-19, that we have a large number of teachers in the classroom, whether it was a preschool classroom or an infant and toddler classroom, who needed to have a degree on higher education to meet the requirements within the Head Start program performance standards, but also to have the delivery of culture and language responsive practices within the tribal communities. So this data was very helpful for us in terms of putting in place the tribal colleges and universities Head Start partnerships. So next slide, please. So in 2020, couple of years ago, we, through the Office of Head Start, we renew our commitment to partnerships between the tribal colleges and universities and Head Start and early Head Start programs in tribal nation. And we knew that there was the opportunity to increase the number, again, of qualified education staff in Native American programs that will serve in our communities in tribal nation. So in September of 2020, the Office of Head Start awarded $4 million to tribal colleges and universities, 6 specific colleges. We awarded the grants to Navajo Technical University, Salish Kootenai, Stone Child Community College, Fond du Lac, White Earth Community College, and our colleague from Chandesca-Sicana Community College. In a little bit, we'll share her experience. But then in 2022, we just awarded $2 additional million because of the successful of this partnership between tribal colleges and universities. We knew that by 2025, our goal is to really have over 500 students from Native American communities to have a degree of higher education in the area of early childhood to support the workforce in Native American communities. But for us to do that, we also knew that it was very important to build a new narrative that is influenced by the values of respect, indigenous ways, respect for tribal sovereignty, strength, and approaches that we are integrating within the lens of the work of Native American communities. And we knew that it was the importance of building a community, building a systems throughout the tribal colleges and universities. So next slide, please. So here's just to provide you some of the practical applications through the tribal colleges and universities Head Start partnership. We knew that by building early childhood education career pathways in Native American communities, we'll have a larger impact into the work, present, and future generations in Native American country. We also knew that by addressing the employment needs of the tribal Head Start programs, we will be responsive to the cultures and the languages of the Native American communities in moving this initiative forward. What we also knew is that each Native American community has its own strengths, and by moving this initiative forward from their own, growing our own approach was going to be very successful. So next slide, please. So here is just to provide you with some examples on what we have seen that the tribal colleges and universities are working very effectively within students in their own communities on supporting their own needs on what is it taking to help them to really be enrolled in this partnership, as well as making sure that there is a graduation, right, Karen, that we are continuing to graduate more and more students within early childhood community. But these are just some examples, whether it was us an ability to provide remedial instructions, the ability to implement hybrid models, virtual as well as to face models, because of the impact as well of COVID-19. We also knew that mental health and wellness supports were really necessary for the staff. Coaching was a very important part of the work within the tribal colleges and universities, and mainly the integration of efforts through tribal language and revitalization efforts within the curriculum of the student was very key. So here again is just a list of the different activities that we heard that the tribal colleges and are using and implementing to move this partnership and to be very successful. Next slide, please. Previously, I mentioned to you that, we have this additional funding within this year that we provided to the existing tribal colleges and universities. And we really have learned through this process that within the work that Native American communities are doing, it was more than just reaching out to the program staff to promote or to really increase the opportunity to enroll in higher education degrees. We also have learned that reaching out to Native American high schools have been very important for the success of these partnerships, and also providing opportunities not only within the education component and Head Start, but also within the vision of the comprehensive services, whether it was a family services specialist, a bus driver, a director who really wanted to participate and increase their background and the education in higher ed, was also now asked to be enrolled in this partnership that has been extremely valuable within learning what matters within Native American communities. And the other part is that, we also learned that through the support of the degrees, that is not only important to enroll, but also to make sure that the students that are currently enrolled maintain their interest and are also providing with the supports that they need to continue and to graduate by 2025 that are part of this process right now. And the most important part within the focus on the supplemental funds has been related to support our tribal colleges and universities and our Native American programs in Head Start and Early Head Start to really use their own innovations and to promote their unique programming related to cultural and linguistic responsiveness. So this has been ideal within the supplemental funds that have been just recently released. Next slide, please. So here is for me one of the most valuable and exciting pieces of the tribal colleges and universities. As you can see, truly an overview of the multiple partnerships, the multiple collaborations, and the different levels of degrees that tribal colleges and universities are offering in partnering with Native American programs in Head Start and Early Head Start to really make sure that this is a very successful partnership from the growing of our own effort. And although the partnerships, the primes have been Navajo, Salish Kootenai, Stone Child, White Earth, Fond du Lac, and Chendeska, you can see that the sub-awardees and the other tribal colleges and universities are also part of this effort, which means that the impact of this partnership is larger and they're expanding to many other tribal nations, and is very rewarding because we're also inviting the Head Start, the Early Head Start programs, and the partnership is very successful because it's led by tribal nation, because it's led by Native American communities. And then you can see here within the degrees, that is anything within a CDA, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, but it's truly through the needs and addressing the strengths within Native communities. And the most one of the most exciting parts to share too is that we were hoping that we will have these 500 candidates graduating by 2025. But currently, I'm excited to let you know, in the third year of this partnership, we're already around 426 of students who are enrolled in this partnership, who we know that they will continue to and graduate by 2025. And we are extending those numbers as well. So this is exciting. And I briefly wanted to share with you some of the effectiveness of this partnership. But in saying that, I'm going to ask my colleague Karen to share from her own perspective the benefits of the tribal colleges and universities within Chendeska Sikana Community College. So thank you, Melody. And I'm going to ask my colleague Karen to share with us a little bit about the impact of this initiative. Karen?
Thank you, Jennifer, for giving me the opportunity to speak for the TCU Head Start Partnership Project. Ha midakiapi apetu de chante washte ya nape yuzapi ye. Ha. All my relatives, I come to you today speaking with a good heart. My name is Karen Littlewin. I am the project coordinator for the Head Start program. We are working under the umbrella of the Chandeska Chicana Community College. I find myself in a unique situation. I am very fortunate to be working in the same building as the Head Start teachers and all the staff. We are located on the Spirit Lake Reservation in North Dakota. My first slide, as you could see, that's our Head Start facility. We are located about 1 mile east of the college. We are surrounded by tribal buffalo pastures, our community beautiful gardens, and located right next door to our tribal EMS ambulance headquarters. Next slide. By growing our own building capacity within our tribal Native American communities, we are focusing on our future generations and always finding ways and strengthening our relationships with our families and our communities. The partnership project has done many positive things for our teachers and our teachers' assistants in supporting their educational endeavors. I have 25 enrolled currently, expecting to get their certificates in infant and toddlers and preschool teaching. They will continue with their degrees in with the degree plan in ECE from the Chandeska Community College, and the 3 remaining years with the continuum of higher education, the students will pursue their bachelor's degree through the MOU with Mayville State University. Next slide. Collaborations with local high schools for cultural informative activities for Winds High School and Warwick High School junior and senior classes, recruiting for Chandeska Community College Early Childhood Education Degree Program, and the Head Start Employment for the Head Start employment opportunities. In collaboration with the CCC and MSU, the students will pursue their bachelor's degree through the articulate agreement with Mayville State University. We currently have 25 enrolled and 3 are working on their master's degree in ECE through MSU, which is Mayville State. And the picture, we won first place in our annual celebration. That's our float that we won first place with, and we are very proud of that. Our next slide. Our strengths are definitely our incentives, which we have guidelines for, and we're also supported by our president of the college and our ECE instructor and our dean of students. We will be having summer classes, and we'll be having summer classes, and we'll be in the workplace. We allow the teachers to do some of their work tutoring and do their work during the work hours when they are here in the building teaching. We allow them to, and we use floats, which means we allow them to take an hour to a half an hour to an hour to allow them to just continue their coursework in their studies of ECE. And our challenges are retention each semester, students meeting SAP, getting participants to go to cohort classrooms that we be using during break or after work. And some of our events are joining local career fairs, flyers, brochures, postcards, open houses, recruiting from the local high schools all year round. Our significant finding is that we find that Zoom classes work best for everybody in the program. Like I said, we have 25 participants, and we remind them, give them reminders that we have to meet SAP every month in order for them to get their monthly incentives. It's a challenge, but we do it and we help them, and it's rewarding. Next slide. Our recruitment efforts have been job fairs, digital boards. We have 2, which is one down at the college and one just right outside our building here. And we do flyers and social media, which is we have a Facebook page. And our engagement activities are once a month partnership meetings to make sure that we're all on task and that we're all on the same page. And once a month family nights we have here. So we're always engaged with our family and our communities. And on our horizon for recruitment would be high school recruitment for April 2023, which is next spring. Our college spring celebration we have, and for Tahltan annual celebration, which is the last weekend in July, which are our best recruiting areas, I guess. Next slide. For the Head Start Partnership project, we have a few responses by the students. The program has helped them stay on task with their studies and the tutoring and the staff support. And the program has helped them in many positive ways. And we're just glad to be here for them and helping them along the way with their educational, supporting them to get their early childhood degrees and be effective. Best Dakota teachers that we have here on our reservation. We have a little segment which would be the our last part of our. You could play the video. Our very last part is our video. I don't know, our video is supposed to, oh, there's our video. Here's our video. One of our teachers.
Mitakiapi. Hello, my relatives. My name is Cassandra Charbonneau. I'm a lead teacher at Chandeska Chicana Community College Head Start. I've been working here for over 2 years. What I love about my job, I love seeing the children grow and learn every day. The partnership project helped me stay on task with my classes and helped me financially with school supplies, and it helped pay for my tuition fee. It also helped me in continuing my education to become a better teacher. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Badamia.
Hi, my name is Sydney Luger. I am from the...
Thank you for having me today and for listening to me. And if you had any questions, I could answer them later or now.
Thank you, Karen, so much for sharing not just your own experiences with the growing of our own approach, but also sharing the voices of the students, those who are truly impacted within the work that we are doing through the tribal colleges and universities Head Start partnerships. And you did an amazing job, Karen, and thank you for sharing with all of us. I'm always very proud of your work. And in saying that, I'm transitioning to our next speaker. We have Tim Roberts. Tim, I just wanted to make sure that you are here with us. Yes, there you are. There you go. Okay, really quickly, Tim, I just wanted to thank you for being with us today, really through the lenses of the work that you do within the Office of Refugee and Resettlement within the administration of children and families. Just a quick story. We have our colleagues from the Office of Refugee and Resettlement, and they knew that we were going to be doing a celebration of Native American Heritage Month, and we had a conversation about how do we get to share about the great work that Tim Roberts is doing related to supporting unaccompanied minors. So I am so glad and honored that you are joining us here today. And just a little bit about yourself, because they asked me to give a little bio about what you do and who you are. So just a little bit quick. So you, Tim Roberts, is the Senior Vice President of Innovative Practices for Cherokee Nation Business. And you have been doing, Tim, an amazing work with what is happening with Cherokee Nation to implement innovative practices in partnerships with the Office of Refugee and Resettlement. Tim, you are a Cherokee citizen and employee of Cherokee National Business based on Tulsa, Oklahoma. And since you have joined Cherokee Nation in 26, you have contributed to startup growth, number of business initiatives, and most recently within the creation of the humanitarian division that works directly with unaccompanied minors within children and families in the process of resettlement. And I do also know that in 2021, through the time of an emergency intake site operated by Cherokee, it was called the model site by the Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra as Cherokee partner to safely and to work with the Office of Refugee and Resettlement to unify over 8,500 unaccompanied minors with sponsors in a very short time period. So for that and more, I think you can tell your story better than I can, Tim, but we are so grateful that you are here with us today. So back to you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's an honor to be here and really appreciate the opportunity. I put together a few slides. I think they're in here. I've tried to relate some of the work we do as a business because this is a little bit different angle than most of the presenters. But I think it's common among a lot of the recipients of some of the funding and some of the service providers in that you've got this business arm that's also tribally operated, but typically done in a silo. And what we learned this last year, before we go into the next couple of slides, is that there's an awfully close partnership between, or a lot of similarities between the services being rendered to refugee minors and the minors here in the Cherokee Nation and probably many other tribal communities. And so it's got us thinking, that what are the things that we can do through shared resources, for example, something we've seen in places like the Children's Village in New York, who's become good friends of ours, is that shelter in and of itself may or may not receive enough funding to serve the population in New York. And it may have a little bit of instability were it not for the additional funding through ORR. And when you put those two things together, you've got one of the most impressive facilities serving children, in the early stages of their life as they get resettled, but may not have a family sponsor. They sit right beside, however, some of the foster kids there in New York State. So we're exploring some of that stuff and excited to kind of briefly brainstorm that at the end here. But first, I'll go ahead and walk through on the next slide here some of the things that Cherokee Nation does, how our businesses are structured, in case that's helpful. We are owned by the Cherokee Nation. We have a legislative, executive, judicial branch that oversees our businesses. I work for Cherokee Nation businesses. And have since 2006. Most of our businesses are run here in Oklahoma by Cherokee Nation citizens. In the next slide, you can see that we are the economic engine for Cherokee. We now are based in this building I'm sitting in there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But we're right here in the corner of a 14-county region that's the Cherokee Nation reservation. Next slide. Shows that in the past 10 years, we've grown to be one of the top federal contractors, which includes now a humanitarian division that directly serves ORR and other parts, really all over the federal government. What that does for us, as you can see on the next slide, and go ahead and go one more ahead. We'll skip this one for time. It generates a ton of income for the tribe that we're able to reinvest in our various causes. 37% of it goes back to the government, which helps fund some of the things, including our Head Start programs. A lot of it goes back to reinvest into the business so we continue to grow. Over the last few years, on the next slide, you can see that the Cherokee Nation has contributed. This is a little bit out of date. We're much closer to $1 billion now in total. But in addition to a huge amount of federal funding that the Cherokee Nation gets, we're now augmenting substantially through the revenue generation by our businesses. So to date, it's, like I said, $728 million through FY20. Now that we're 2 years forward, it's grown quite a bit to closer to $1 billion, if not a little north of there. On the next slide, you can see that we're starting to help fund more and more initiatives. So if you look at some of these numbers, our Head Start program is almost exclusively funded by federal funds. However, as our businesses grow, you see about a $500,000 a year contribution from the Head Start Act, which is funded, as I'll show in the next slide here, by by legislation that our government passes based on the funds that we are making available through the businesses. So tribes are allocated money from the federal government. They reinvest it in various programs. For us, we reinvest a lot into our businesses, not with federal funds, but with the funds our businesses generate. And now we're turning out a pretty healthy profit, probably close to $200 million a year that goes back into tribal reinvestment. And that enables us to pass acts like the Vernon D. Thompson Early Childhood Act, which is now, this is one of the initial designs for one of the first Head Start centers. We'll fund 8 facilities, 7 or 8, I think, depending on the budget, and also fund a review of all of our early childhood services for Cherokee citizens. Next couple slides, and I'll be quick here, but I think this is probably the most important part. Again, as we see a lot of federal funding going to tribes in the way of federal contracts, which I think, there's no reason to go into that here, but it is developing a ton of capacity for Cherokee Nation. So, for example, in Pomona, California, as well as Albion, and now in supporting Operation Allies Welcome through the Afghan Resettlement Mission, we are developing a core competency where we're really, really good, it turns out, at serving humanitarian missions, specifically families, children, where people are at the end of a long journey seeking resettlement support. It is really near and dear to Cherokee citizens' heart, and something that we can see if you look at some of the development of Cherokee as a people. Huge population here in Northeast Oklahoma, people that were forcefully resettled. There was no resettlement initiative at all landed, and any of these socioeconomic indicators that lag behind the national averages, you can probably attribute to that experience some number of generations ago. So the generational trauma, the economic setback, the loss of history, stories, language, education that happened through the Trail of Tears are still noticeable today when you look around Northeast Oklahoma. But that being said, through a lot of the initiatives that the tribe has funded to get kids back into school, to get them into early childhood centers, are now paying off in that we're able to run our own businesses. And in doing so, we're able to drive a lot of centers of excellence. If you take ORR, for example, we did a great job. I think we reunified kids faster than any other shelter in the country, we believe. And we did a lot of that with Cherokee citizens that chipped in and helped figure out the systems that made that possible. And so now we sit here and ask ourselves, the population here in Oklahoma needs the same type of support. There's still a lot of funding flowing through operations, federal agencies like Population, Refugee, Migration under Department of State or ORR under HHS. A lot of the money is flowing into places where these refugees come across the border, but then they disperse around the country. And the questions we are starting to ask ourselves is, can we as a tribe reinvest? And then the last slide, I think that's, and these are both kind of the same, but that's something that's got us super curious. And I don't have any answers here, but it is something worth looking at. If there's billions of dollars of federal contracting funds flowing to resettlement missions, and there's millions of dollars flowing into missions to do early childhood or early start for tribal communities, is there an opportunity to co-invest those dollars and to co-create facilities? And this would be on us as a tribe. Could we stand up a shelter, for example, and say, well, this is partially federally funded to serve the ORR mission. It's also partially funded to serve some of the child foster care needs we have here in the Cherokee Nation. And when you put the two together, we have the economies of scale to really make a big difference. And we've got more data and we have more people, and we're developing out a support network, both for the government on the federal side as well as the tribe. And so those are the things we're scratching our heads about. Those are some of the things that Cherokee Nation's up to. Happy to take any questions, but those are the things I thought I would throw out there. In case it's helpful, especially I'd open up to any other tribal citizens from other tribes. Cherokee's always more than happy to work with other Native populations to say, here's what we're doing. In case either that's helpful, super interested in learning what others are doing and spreading some of the knowledge in case that advances the cause. Appreciate everybody's time today.
And thank you so much, Tim, for that perspective and the great work that you are leading within Cherokee Nation. And you have key partners here in this presentation today that I'm sure that they're hearing about the great work that you're doing. So don't be surprised if we were reaching out to you within our colleagues of the Office of Refugee and Resettlement. But thank you so much for sharing your perspective as you are Right. It's a unique approach and, you know, a little bit different on what we have been working on, but an opportunity to explore a collaboration and partnership. And that's what we're doing in this national webinar, right? Celebrating collaborations and practices for tribal nations. So thank you, team, for sharing. And I will ask Melody, I think I'm transitioning back to you for our next presenter.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you for that wonderful sharing, Tim. All right, so I wanted to turn this over to our colleagues at the Tribal Early Childhood Research Center. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Sarche.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Yes.
Okay, next slide. So yes, my name is Michelle Sarche, and I'm calling in today from the Tribal Early Childhood Research Center. I also just wanted to acknowledge in the chat and also on the last slide by Tim, the Verna D. Thompson Early Childhood Act. Verna has been a longtime partner to the Tribal Early Childhood Research Center. And as I put in the chat, that act was very aptly named for a tribal early childhood leader. So that was the first time I heard of that. And I'm just super excited to hear about that work. Next slide. So I'm calling in today from Denver, Colorado, where I acknowledge that the University of Colorado's 4 campuses are in the traditional homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, Apache, Comanche, Kiowa, Lakota, Pueblo, Shoshone, and numerous other tribal nations tied to the land that we now call Colorado. I honor the original stewards of these lands, their legacies, and ongoing contributions. Next slide. So I'm going to just share a little bit. I know we just have a short time left here today, and it's such an honor to be among esteemed colleagues doing such important work for tribal children and families and communities. So through the Tribal Early Childhood Research Center, we really try to grow the field of early childhood research in partnership with tribal communities. And who we are, you can go to the next slide. Our center is led by a group of university and research partners from across the country, us here in Colorado at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus and the Centers for American Indian and Alaska Native Health. We have partners at Michigan State University, the Johns Hopkins Center for Indigenous Health, Child Trends, and the Brazelton Touchpoint Center at Harvard Children's Hospital. We have a cooperative agreement, and we work very, very closely with our partners in the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation at ACF, as well as many other ACF partners in other program offices. Next slide. We are led also by a steering committee that is made up of tribal home visiting, Head Start, childcare, and now TANF partners, tribal organizational partners, academic partners from other research institutions across the country, and tribal community leader partners. Next slide. And as I shared, we also partner with other early childhood program offices within the Administration for Children and Families. Next slide. As well as the next slide, a number of ACF-funded early childhood initiatives and national centers, many of whom are represented here and are part of our tribal subcommittee. And we also work closely with our home visiting, Head Start, and childcare national associations, such as the National Indian Head Start Directors Association, NICA, and ASFI, the Association of State and Tribal Home Visiting Initiatives. So through all of these partners, collaboration is really at the core of what we do through the Tribal Early Childhood Research Center. Next slide. And so what we do is we are funded to carry out 4 areas of excellence around national leadership, research to assess early childhood needs, practices, systems, and supports, research to advance measurement related to tribal early childhood development, and strategic dissemination. And the next slide. And how we do that, this image here, this figure that shows the water cycle, is that through the strategic dissemination, the ways that we share our work with our federal partners, our research partners, with the TA network, tribal early childhood programs, and tribal leaders, we really take that information back up to inform the work that we're doing in an iterative fashion throughout all the years that we've been funded. We've actually had funding from ACF since 2005. So we're really honored to be able to do this work over a long period of time. It's really allowed us to build close relationships with people working in lots of different spheres and working in lots of different ways to support children and families. Next slide. And so, as I shared, this is just a picture that exemplifies that relationships are really at the heart of what we do. And we've really gotten to know each other as friends and colleagues, which has built a foundation of trust and allowed us to have really honest conversations and do some really deep work over all of these years. Next slide. So I was just going to share very briefly some examples of our work. These are just really high level examples, and you can go to our website, which is tribalearlychildhood.org, to learn about all of the work that we're doing, but I'll just share a couple of highlights here. Next slide. So some of the work that we're doing to advance measurement. We've done a lot of work in the past on early developmental screeners and their fit and best practices for use in tribal early childhood settings. And as you'll see on the dissemination slide, you can read about some of that work that we've done around developmental screeners. One of the areas that we're moving into now is really trying to understand how we can, for the purpose of research, evaluation, and practice, have a really culturally grounded measure of early relational health in tribal families. As those of you who do assessment and measurement know, many of the tools that are out there do not account for tribal values, tribal ways of knowing, tribal ways of being, and parenting and practices. So we're working with a community of learning to really from the ground up inform a measure of early relational health that takes into account all of that, tribal values, tribal ways of knowing, and tribal early childhood relational practices. So that's just one example of one of what we call our communities of learning. Next slide. We have another community of learning that's been together for quite a long time, and they've actually collaborated to secure some additional funding from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And they are really leaning into measures of Native language and culture in the classroom. So they're doing some really deep work around the classroom assessment scoring system. And again, how that can be used in ways that are meaningful in tribal early childhood, like Head Start settings, for example. And then also we've developed a new tool, and some of the work that we do through the TRC is also connected to the American Indian and Alaska Native Head Start Family and Child Experiences Survey, which was the first national study of tribal Head Start programs across the country. And we know how important tribal language and culture are in early childhood practice. So one of the things that this community of learning is also doing is really taking a close look at a measure of how Native language and culture are implemented in tribal early childhood settings. So that's some work that's happening in another community of learning. Next slide. And a lot of what we do to grow the field of early childhood research in partnership with tribal communities really falls also under our national leadership efforts. And so we host a conference, a child development conference every other odd year. Our timing was thrown off by COVID, so we actually had one this past fall in 2022, and we'll be having one again in 2023. And on the bottom picture, you see Lisa Martin, who was involved with the Tribal Home Visiting Program. She's now at Johns Hopkins, but she was one of our keynote presenters. And her work was just really well received by this broad audience of researchers who are working across lots of areas of children's development in tribal communities and with tribal communities nationally. So we're really honored to have her share the work that they've done that is so culturally grounded to deliver home visiting services. And then on the top, you see that's just a few of the people who were at our conference. And anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you might get involved in our work, but this is one of the opportunities you all have to be involved in our work, and that is to join us at our conference. And we have those again in the odd summer, so we'll have it again in 2023 in September. Next slide. Something else that we do as part of our national leadership is we host a Tribal Research Center Summer Institute, and that happens in collaboration with our partners at Johns Hopkins Center for Indigenous Health. We teach a 2-credit graduate level course called Early Childhood Research with Tribal Communities. And it's not only for researchers, but it's for people, most of the people you see in this picture, and this was taken in 2019. The last time we were able to have the course in person, we offered it virtually in 2021. But it's also for people who are working in early childhood programs and practice settings to help them, think about how they might learn to apply all of what we understand about child development and tribal early childhood development in particular, how they might apply that in their practice and their evaluation work. So we will be having that course again this coming summer in 2023. And we have scholarships for people to attend. And we've had well over 100 students who have received scholarship support. There's other students that come without our scholarship support, but we've been doing this course since 2013, so for almost 10 years now. And, talk about collaboration, both the NCRE, the Native Children's Research Exchange Conference, and our Summer Institute. When you get people together who are so passionate about the work that they do to support children and families in tribal communities, collaboration just happens organically at every turn. And I've noted 1 minute. Next slide. So the other thing that we do through national leadership is we host some virtual learning circles. This past spring, we had one on Indigenous land-based learning in early childhood, and we will be having a 3 learning circle series this coming spring focused on Indigenous food sovereignty in early childhood. Next slide. And we share our work. We are at a lot of conferences. Mike mentioned NIEA, National Indian Education Association Conference. I was just there most recently. We participate in the National Research Conference on Early Childhood that ECF sponsors in the even summers. We've been regular participants at the NIJDA Annual Training Conference. And on the right, you see some of our publications. You can access our publications on our website. Those are 2 publications related to that early developmental screening work that I mentioned. Next slide. And how to get involved. So I really encourage all of you, if you have any interest in this work or all of the other exciting work that's happening across the country. A lot of things cross my desk. I manage a listserv, and there's job opportunities, there's new reports and papers and webinar opportunities, conferences. There's just so much going on, and I just encourage you to get on that listserv. But you can email me at Tribal Early Childhood, as you see right there. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can join that listserv that I mentioned, and everything you need is at our website. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's always wonderful to hear all of the amazing work that you're doing, and just so exciting. We really appreciate you taking the time today. All right, so again, in the last few moments of our time together, if you have questions for Michelle, drop them in the chat. And before we close out, I just wanted to highlight on the next slide a couple upcoming events that are coming up on November 10th. So that
Melody, I think that we're losing your audio.
there's a tribal early childhood webinar. We'll put the link in the chat box for you, and I'll put those links in the chat. We just, want to thank everyone for joining us today. And to close us out, we want to turn this over. So we'll go to the next slide. And I'd like to say hello to Hope McDonald Lone Tree, and she's going to give our closing remarks. So thank you so much. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And yat she Hope McDonald Lone Tree Yinshe Torachini Nishle Hashkaha so Bashichin Naflane Edishache Arobatane Edishanella. I am so delighted to join you today and in recognition of Native American Heritage Month and the webinar that you had this afternoon. As the Acting Commissioner for the Administration for Native Americans, I want to thank you for the incredible work you have done to support tribal communities within this field. Native American Heritage Month is a time to remember who we are as an Indigenous people and to continue our healing journey. While the pandemic has left another scar in the history of our people, it is the lessons from our ancestors that keep us going. Yet it will be the healing that will be truly transforming in the landscape and ensure we carry forward our teachings, language, and culture. And in order to heal, we must support one another and learn from our past to build a brighter future. And in ending, please remember, above all, in today's webinar and in this month is all about acknowledging and honoring our Indigenous brothers and sisters, our ancestors, and our descendants yet to come. Be well, take care of one another, and stay strong.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful day.